Hey there, friends. Welcome back to another cozy little story time. I've made us some warm tea, fluffed the cushions, and opened the windows just a crack to let in the soft breeze. This is a story for everyone, no matter your age, where you're from, or what kind of day you've had. It's gentle, heartwarming, and just a little bit surprising. So settle in, and let me tell you about the time I got, well, catfished. But don't worry, it's not a scary story. It's actually kind of sweet. So, it all started during one of those quiet seasons of life. You know the kind. When things are slow and calm, but maybe just a little too quiet. I was living in a charming little village, tucked between forested hills and wide golden meadows. My cottage had ivy climbing up the walls, a crooked chimney, and a garden that always smelled like rosemary and lemon balm. Every evening, I'd sit out on the porch with a mug of peppermint tea and watch the sun sink behind the hills, turning everything gold and honey-colored. And it was on one of those golden evenings that I decided to try something new. I signed up for a quaint little pen pal app, not really a dating thing, more like friendly letters exchanged across distances. I liked the idea of connecting with someone who might be sitting in their own quiet corner of the world, sipping tea just like me. Pretty soon, I got a message. It was from someone named River. They had a profile picture of a cozy mountain cabin, a dog curled up on the steps, and the soft glow of firelight inside. Their message was kind and simple. Hi there. Your garden looks like a dream. Do you grow mint or lavender? I smiled. I did, in fact, grow both. And just like that, we began to talk. Every day, I'd find a new letter from River. They described their life in a snowy village up north, their love of baking bread, and their big gentle dog, named Butter. Their words were like poetry, soothing, warm, and full of little details. I imagined them bundling up in a woolen sweater, kneading dough by candlelight, snow falling softly outside. Our messages became the highlight of my days. I'd read them at breakfast, after feeding the chickens, and again at night, before bed. I even began writing my replies on paper first, with my best handwriting, as if I were really sending old-fashioned letters. And although we never sent photos of ourselves, just pictures of places, pets, and cups of tea, I started to feel like I knew them, like I could almost hear their laugh or picture them waving from their cabin window. But then one day, something curious happened. River sent a photo of a lakeside picnic checkered blanket, a thermos of cocoa, and 2 mugs. But one of the mugs had a name written on it, and it wasn't River, it was Ellie. Now, maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was a borrowed mug or an old photo from a friend's outing. But it tickled something in the back of my mind, like a feather brushing against a forgotten drawer. I didn't say anything. Not yet, but I started to look a little closer, just gently, like a cat peeking around a corner. And that's where our little mystery begins. So, stay close. In the next chapter, I'll tell you what I discovered, and why I don't regret a single thing. When we left off, I had just noticed something, a small detail, a name on a mug in a photo from River. Ellie. It might have meant nothing, but I had a feeling, like when you notice a flower in your garden bending in a strange direction. You don't panic, you just kneel down for a closer look. So that's what I did. I didn't confront River. I didn't even mention the mug. Instead, I continued our gentle back and forth, still sipping my tea and writing on notepaper first. But now, I began to read between the lines a little more. And as I did, I realized something strange. River's stories started to shift. Sometimes they said it was snowing. Other times, they said it had been sunny all week. Once, they said Butter the dog was old and slow, but in another message, they said he'd just learned a new trick. It wasn't that they were lying in a cruel way. It felt more like someone weaving a dream they didn't quite remember. I imagined River sitting by a fire, typing out little stories they wished were true. And, honestly, I didn't feel angry, just curious. So I asked, softly, "Hey River, your stories are so vivid and lovely, but sometimes they feel like a painting more than a photo. I love them either way, but I wonder, how much of it is real?" There was a pause, not in words, but in time. A whole day went by before they replied, and when the message came, it was shorter than usual. "You're right," they wrote. "My name isn't River. Butter isn't my dog. And I don't live in the mountains. I'm sorry." Just that. No excuses. No grand reveal. Just quiet honesty, like the first bird singing after a long silence. I sat with it for a while. My heart didn't drop or twist. It just softened. Because even though I'd never seen their face or known their real name, our letters had still brought me joy. Their words had painted beauty into my slow days. And maybe I'd done the same for them. So I wrote back. "It's okay," I said. "We all tell stories to feel a little closer to the life we want. If you'd like, you can still write to me, just as you are." And that's when the most surprising thing happened. They sent me a photo. A real one this time. It wasn't a cozy cabin or snowy mountain. It was a tiny apartment balcony, crowded with potted plants. And sitting in the middle, barefoot and smiling shyly, was a young woman with tangled curls and a paint-streaked apron. She looked like she'd been caught halfway between creating something and daydreaming. "My name is Ellie," she wrote, "and I really do love mint tea. I just didn't think anyone would want to hear from the real me." Friends, let me tell you, I smiled so big that the corners of my eyes crinkled. Because sometimes, the real stories are even sweeter than the ones we make up. But the best part? That came next. After Ellie sent me that photo, the one with her on the little balcony, paint on her apron and mint growing wild in a dozen mismatched pots, I felt something in me relax. Like I could breathe a little easier. She looked nothing like the dream I'd built in my mind, but somehow, that made her feel even more real, tangible, like someone I could laugh with over a cup of tea on a breezy afternoon. We kept writing, but the tone changed. It wasn't make-believe anymore. She told me about her tiny art studio, where she painted whimsical pictures of animals sipping tea under trees. She told me how sometimes she felt invisible in her day-to-day life, and how creating River had helped her feel seen. I told her about my chickens and my crooked little cottage, and how I still sometimes talked to the moon when the nights felt too quiet. We swapped real photos after that. I sent her a picture of my garden in bloom, sunflowers towering above my head, and a sleepy cat curled beside the watering can. She sent a snapshot of a painting she'd made just for me. A cozy cabin under the stars, a garden glowing with fireflies, and 2 steaming mugs on the porch rail. One day, I got a parcel in the post. Inside was that very painting, carefully wrapped in brown paper and tied with twine. There was a note tucked inside, for the person who made me feel like the truth was enough. I hung the painting above the kitchen window, where the morning light touched it gently every day. And that's how our friendship bloomed. Real, imperfect, and honestly, kind of magical. We never met in person. At least, not yet. But that didn't matter much. Our connection wasn't about distance or names. It was about kindness and gentleness, and the choice to forgive something that wasn't meant to hurt. Every now and then, Ellie sends me new artwork, and I send her dried herbs from my garden: lavender, rosemary, and of course, mint. We still write, too. Less often, but always with warmth. Her messages are no longer stories wrapped in fiction, but quiet little windows into her world. Sometimes messy, always honest. And to think it all started because of a fake name and a photo of a dog who didn't exist. So if you've ever felt like you had to become someone else to be seen, maybe this story is for you. Maybe the real you is more than enough. Maybe the real you is exactly what someone else is hoping to find. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope it left you with a little warmth in your heart and a smile on your face. If it did, be sure to like, subscribe, and come back anytime you need another cozy tale to curl up with. There's always room here for one more cup of tea, one more story, and one more friend. Until next time, stay safe, stay kind, and stay beautifully you.